My name is John Cornicello, and I welcome you to my series of live interactive photo conversations. You can check out the schedule at cornicello.com/conversations for dates and times of upcoming shows with people like Jack Brzezinski, Don Komarechka, John Miskelly, and James Hefner. You'll also find links to previous conversations there. Today, my guest is Peter Hurley. Peter is known worldwide for his headshots and the headshot crew in a shebang. He took the headshot genre flying about 8 years ago with appearances on Good Morning America, the New York Times, and with the TEDx talk at MIT. It all started with training for the Olympics and some photo sessions with Bruce Weber, who encouraged Peter to pick up a camera. But besides headshots, Peter is also a portrait photographer, and I want to talk a bit about that today. So please welcome Peter Hurley.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. I'm
You're
psyched
welcome.
to be here with you guys. This is super cool. It's always, anytime that this guy asked me to do anything, I jump at it. I think one of my favorite talks that I gave was at Adobe that he got me set up there. That was an awesome talk where a lot of my talks aren't memorable and stuff for me. I mean, that hopefully they're memorable for the people listening, but for me, it's like, but that one for some reason really resonated with me.
Yeah, we really winged it on that one. It was like a last minute. Peter's in town. We got a meeting tonight. Why don't you come join me?
I was like, I'm going. It was awesome. I love speaking about this stuff. So and I'm an open book, so you guys can ask me anything, and I'm happy to talk about anything. He did tell me to concentrate on my portrait stuff, which I love, and I love that you asked, because most people ask me to speak about headshots, and I very rarely get asked to talk about my portraiture, which is something that I consider myself a portrait photographer first, headshot photographer second. I mean, I didn't all of a sudden put somebody in front of my camera and move 3 feet away from him and start shooting. I was a portrait photographer, and when I get those portrait jobs and working with my clientele, the portrait sessions stuff is awesome, because there's a lot more to it. I guess there's just a lot. I mean, not that there's a lot to headshots, but basically my headshot recipe is nailed down left, right, and center. Like, all I need to do is throw somebody in my viewfinder and I'm just working on their expression. So it just becomes that. Portraits, however, is like, it's a whole nother mix for me. And especially my favorite thing is environmental portraiture. So where I am, I have people come in the studio and do portraits all the time, and figuring out backdrops and lighting scenarios in here is my training ground for when I go somewhere and do it. And a lot of times there's not much time. I would say 90% of the time, I don't scope out the locations that I'm shooting. And I like pushing my envelope. I'm always trying to push my boundaries. So I don't mind that. A lot of photographers do a lot of prep. I'm not one of them. I go into it and do it on the fly a little bit more. The biggest job that I ever did, and I can show you some pictures from that are on my site, which I'll bring my site up and I'll just go through them, because there's some jobs that just really mean a lot to me. And this one in particular it's on my site. It's some portraits that I did, and I'd like to start talking about that, because it was the pinnacle of my career at the time, and it still holds such high value for me. It was in 2010. It was at the end of, I don't know if any of you watched the show Lost, but my goal, when I became a photographer, John had alluded to my story. I was training for the Olympics in sailing, and I met a designer from Donna Karan. There's actually, you could Google it if somebody wants to put the link in. There's a New York Times article called "A Sailor Finds His Angel." So if you Google that or put Peter Hurley, New York Times, actually the New York Times has asked me to write for them a couple times. Or they've interviewed me on my stuff a couple times, which is a huge honor. So I don't know what comes up, but if you put "A Sailor Finds His Angel," Peter Hurley, and I'm sure it'll come up. It was in the style section of the Times, and it was a story about Caggie Simonelli Bradford was this woman who I met, who was like, "Hey, you're training for the Olympics. You need sponsorship. Let me help you." next thing I know, she gets Wendy Hammond, who's a photographer, puts me in some DKNY clothes because she was Donna's intern and assistant. At the time, she was a designer at DKNY, but she started out as Donna Karen's intern. Anyway, she got me sponsored by DKNY. So I was wearing all this clothes and sailing and racing. And it was awesome. And then she calls me one day. She goes, "You got to go over to Ralph Lauren." And I was like, "Really?" She goes, "I got you an appointment with a designer over there. They're doing an ad campaign and they want real sailors." So, and I was training for sailing for the Olympics. That was my thing. So I go over, I meet them. The designer sends me over to the ad agency. The ad agency takes a picture of me. The next thing I know, I'm in Miami in front of Bruce Weber's camera. And Bruce and I became friends, and he ended up photographing me, helping me get a modeling agency, getting my modeling career started. And then he encouraged me to pick up a camera. And I ended up picking up a camera, but I was a model, actor, bartender dude. So I was doing the acting thing. So when I picked up a camera, I thought, I just want to, get on sets and shoot celebrities. And I actually, when I picked up a camera, I actually honestly just did it to get out of a bar. I didn't do it thinking I would find something that I loved more than anything else. I had no idea that this was going to, instill this passion for photography inside of me. I just thought I would make a buck. So I didn't have high hopes for my photography. I was just like, I just don't want to be a bartender anymore. And then I fell in love with it, and that changed the game, and everything just changed. I ended up, I remember Bruce saying, "What do you want to shoot?" And I had been hanging out with him a bunch. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to shoot some of the stuff you shoot." And since I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to I wanted to shoot actor. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. I wanted to photograph actors on sets. And I remember I had done some acting, and I'd worked on the Sony lot, and I was going in and out every day. And I was like, I just thought it was cool being on the set of these things. I was in a film where I was playing a double and a stand-in for actor named David Keith. If you look up David Keith, like, he was the guy who killed himself in An Officer and a Gentleman. I guess that's what he's most well known for. But people said I always looked like him. So people would come on the set and they'd be like, "Oh, it's so nice of you to visit your brother today." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Or they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you guys look so much alike. How long have you been working together?" And I was like, I don't know. Anyway, so I got this job because I looked like him. And I was on set all the time, and I got this bug for acting. And when I picked up the camera, it kind of translated into, okay, I'm not very talented. I was not a talented actor. My acting coach told me otherwise, but I proved over and over and over again that I sucked. So I was like, I think I'm out of here. This isn't going to work for me. So when I picked up a camera, I was like, well, what's the closest thing to getting on those sets and being in those positions and getting to see that kind of work being done? And that was, behind the scenes with a camera. And I got my dream job. I got a call. I was doing a bunch of work for the Vilcek Foundation, which is a foundation here in New York City where they honor immigrants. And they had this relationship with, they do a lot in Hawaii for some reason. And Lost was filming in Hawaii, and they called I guess they found out that there were a ton of people working on the film that were immigrants. So they wanted to highlight these people, and it wasn't the actors. It was like everybody. It was like the set designer and the lead painter and all these people, the producers, everybody. And anybody who was first generation or had immigrated to the United States. So it's a wonderful foundation. I've been shooting. They're my oldest client. I believe they're my second oldest client that I still shoot for. I picked up a camera in 2000. I started shooting for them around 2002, I think, 2001, 2002. Anyway, I go out there, I do the job, and all the shots were for an exhibition at their foundation here in Manhattan. So it was a huge thing for my career to have this happen, and something that was put a lot of pressure on me, but it also put me in the scenario where I got to do exactly what I wanted: the environmental portraiture and it's funny. My favorite portrait that I took is in that exhibition, but I don't think it's in my gallery on my website. So I'm going to go to a screen share and I'm going to show you these pictures. But before I do that, I just want to say I shot in LA at the studios there. I think it was on, I don't remember what lot. It might have been on Warner Brothers. I don't know which lot it was on, but I got to go in and I shot a bunch of the producers and people there that were based in LA. And then I flew to Hawaii and I shot while they were finishing that up. And I say this because for me, to get out of the studio and shoot environmental portraiture and then have it go as an exhibition, it was a huge, not only a huge job, just with excitement. Like I was so fired up about it, but it put so much pressure on me to grow as a photographer. So anytime you get a chance to, and then there was a time frame thing too. Like some of these pictures that I have stories about, I had like 30 seconds to take and they were going to be an exhibition in New York City. Like I was like so stressed out and exhilarated at the same time. So let me bring up my screen share and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the portfolio, and we'll just go through some of these. I'll click on them, make them bigger. Hopefully you could see this. This was Evangeline Lilly, and I seriously had like 2 seconds to take this picture. She had just finished a scene and ran over there and sat down, and I'm using the natural light that was, we were on Oahu, and I was in the middle of this, obviously right out what you're seeing. And I had, back then, there was very limited battery powered strobes. I had some Lumidynes that I used, but I didn't bring them with me. They were small and not very high powered. So I brought a Profoto Q200, Q2A 2400 pack with attached to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Paul C. Buff Vagabond battery. And I thought, I'm going to stick this battery into my Profoto power pack and cross my fingers and hope it works on the side of a mountain. So in Hawaii. So I did that. And this was the director, and he gave me, so he was excited I was there, but he was like, okay, while I'm changing my lens, you could shoot some stuff. So behind you can see Evangeline and Matthew Fox, I think his name was. And the director was super cool. And I forget his name. What was his name? I forget his name. I should remember that. But he came around out of the tent. I said, stand there, don't move. And I took that shot of him, and he was super cool. And they had a bunch of different directors. And then the Steadicam guy, like all of these mean so much to me now. And the fact that I got the chance to do it, and they all went up on this huge exhibition for the Vilcek Foundation, and all the actors came to New York, and the producer, everybody came to New York for it. It was a big, huge to do, and a wonderful part of my career. She was the location scout, so she said, I just feel like I drove all over this island in my car. So could you photograph me with my truck or whatever? And I was like, yeah, I guess I just said, sit on the hood and hang out. And that was the shot I got. It was windy. And I shot her like that, and that went in the exhibition. This was one of the actors, and he was near like a bomb or something. I don't remember. It was a rocket or something. They had all this cool stuff around, and this was on I forget the name of the studio out there, but they had all this cool stuff that was laying around from the sets, and they were finished. I got there on their last day of shooting, so I was running around. I think I was there 2 days, and it was the 2 last days of shooting.
What year was this?
I think it was 2010.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was 2010. Actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I should have it in, if I'm organized, how organized I am, would be in commercial work 2010. I'm guessing. Yep. I'm organized. April 2010. And this was, oh my gosh, I haven't looked at these this is me and my assistant when we were testing light. I haven't looked at these in forever. There I am. Holy smokes. And they were painting this. Wow, look at this. Holy smokes. There I am. I got my long hair. I got, wow.
We'll get back to your hair later.
I haven't seen these. Unbelievable. Oh my gosh. I didn't know I had a shot of myself in this. This was really frustrating. Oh, I have a video I could show you from this too. I shot the set designer. So if you look here, you could see this.
Yeah.
I got my cursor thing on. You could see he put all the sets like this and he came in on his day off. I'm about to get to this shot and it was of Zach. So I was testing the light here. I keyed him with the, with his lights from, and I kicked him with his lights from his, what are those called? Architect lights or something? I don't know.
Desk lamps.
Desk lamps. It's desk lamps. Yes. Help me out there. All right. And, let me see if I have anything. So I was there on the 9th, the 12th, the 6th. This was going when I went into, oh my gosh, these are tests. This is my assistant at the editing desk. These are when we were testing before the people got there. I am. Look at me. Oh my gosh. I didn't know I even had these. This is hilarious. You guys are exciting me. And this, I'll show you this is my assistant, Zach, who came with me. We were going to shoot this pinball machine because they had these pinball machines. We didn't shoot it. We ended up shooting that couch. That's so crazy. I have more outtakes. What about this? I'm in the jungle. Oh my gosh. Look at this. You can see. This is so cool. These are the women that hire. There's the light that we were using.
Photech soft lighter.
I have on a Photech soft lighter. Yeah. And I have video of this that nobody's seen either. I've never shown these to anybody. I don't think I've seen them myself since that day. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Look at us. That was cool. Anyway, let me finish showing the pictures so that you can get a better sense of the pictures. It was the coolest job I've done to date that I could think of. Okay. So then we were running around the set. This was another one of the actors. Here, those stalagmite, like the cave they were painting, and they were not finished painting this. I think you guys know this guy was one of their pretty famous actors, but I forget his name. This was Carlton, the producer, and I was shooting the lead painter on this ladder, and then Carlton came up and the painter went away. And for some reason, I don't think the shot of the painter's in here, but it's my favorite portrait I've ever taken. So I've got to find it to show you. This was the lighting tech on the set. So I said, just turn on some of your lights, make it look cool. And then I shadow him, made him laugh, which I normally don't do. And I shot him from way above. But it was cool seeing. I wanted to show all the gear that he was using, and they were just finishing up a scene, like the last scene. I don't know if any of you guys are Lost fans, but there was a scene in a church, and this is the church over here, which was like the last scene. This was one of the grips, and I just wanted to show the truck and him kind of hanging out with all his stuff, which was cool. This was the shot that I was testing for that you just saw the outtakes of. She was the producer, the main like production person, Noreen, and she was my point person for the job I was doing. So I just had her showed how messy and crazy her desk was and had her hanging out there. Let me see if I have, why are there not more going? Is that it? That can't be it. It's like half of them are gone. Oh my gosh. I think something happened and I have to put the rest there. So let me show you. I should have them in a retouch folder here. I know I have them. Hold on. Chris is a. This is my favorite. This is it. Okay, this is the folder. This is what I needed. Oh, it's Jack. So yeah, for some reason my site is missing some of the best shots. So these are in my studio. I printed them huge. This is he plays actually Hurley on the show. I think it's Jorge Garcia is his name. He's a famous actor. And this was when the director said, okay, I'm changing lenses. You could take a shot. Seriously, like 30 seconds to get this shot. It was going in the exhibition. He just gave me this little look and I hit him with the thing and it was just awesome. So I got that shot. This is the other one that you saw, which is Jack, the director. But this is my favorite portrait that I've ever taken. It always has been. I don't know if it ever always will be, but for now, the story behind it's really cool. So I was shooting the producer in the cave, and Chris is this guy, and he was painting it, and the producer came up and tapped me on the shoulder. He said, he said, can I take some pictures? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And Chris is like, find me later. I said, all right, I'll find you later. I find him, and he's in the paint department with all his stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I in my portraiture, it's kind of funny. In my headshots, everything's super clean, super simple. I don't like anything to distract from the person I'm photographing, even like jewelry. Like everything has to be simple. Like the background's usually white or some neutral tone. And I keep everything super simple. In my portraiture, the busier the better for me. I don't know why. Like he's got this busy guitar shirt on. There's nooks and crannies to look at throughout this whole thing of what the heck is going on there. And I like the way the fall off is of the light on his face. And then the shutter speed was closed down enough that I got all the paint and everything looking kind of dark. He did place that's
why they call it environmental portraiture.
There we go. Because of the environment. Exactly. So he placed this sucker down here. His spray gun. He wanted one thing in the frame. He put it right in the middle. And it's always been my favorite. It's just, I like the way it's in my studio in the front. It's the eye wanders around it. I think it's got a lot to look at. I love his expression. And I was shooting Kinoflows at the time, and I had a built-in one right up here. It was very helpful. I was shooting fluorescence. So I was like, I'm ready. And, and the story behind it, that I was very fortunate to capture it in the first place. So that was one that meant a lot to me. And it still sits in my studio in the waiting area where people come in and check it out. And I like talking about this job a lot because not only was it, I was going out, I was kind of rushed. I actually finished shooting my second day in Hawaii, and they wanted me to stay to shoot some more of the actors and stuff. But in that year, 2 of my biggest jobs were within the same week. So I had to fly back to New York to shoot an author who is a wonderful human being, or was a wonderful. Unfortunately, we lost him. His name's Vince Flynn. I don't know if anybody had ever read any Vince Flynn books, but Vince was a amazing guy who I was fortunate enough to photograph for Simon and Schuster. And I just think it goes to show it just so happened that it coincided with that same week. But when you do a good job for clients and they stick up for you and have your back, I was shooting, there's a lot of pressure in what I do to get the shots and to keep clientele happy. And I was shooting for Simon and Schuster, and some things went south on a couple of jobs. And then they just didn't call again. And then they called Vince and said, hey, you got a new book coming out. And I'll never forget this. The art director calls me, and I was like, you're going to work with me again? After that, we had a situation that came up with another famous author where I don't feel it was my fault, but they didn't use the pictures from the shoot. Long story, don't need to get into it. And I understand what happened. It was fine. But the art director calls me and says, yeah, we want you to shoot Vince again. I was like, wow, really? That's great. That's awesome. I love Vince. And she said, well, I called him and said, we need to do a photo shoot. And he said, well, you better get Peter on the phone. And I was like, wow. And that is something that I will never forget. Vince passed away a few years back from prostate cancer. And I was fortunate enough to photograph him twice and do all his books and they're still using my images on his books that are still.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure, Michael.
So these images that you've been showing us from Lost, which was a very good show, but they were from more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What have you been doing since?
Not much portraiture, but he asked me to talk about portraiture.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about headshots,
whatever.
I've been taking a lot of headshots. I mean, I take portraits too. the thing that I am very bad at, it's a good question, super valid, is updating my website. So I never touch it. I'm busy working and I'm cranking, and my web designer wants to update the website. So when he updates the website, I'm going to update some of the stuff, but I haven't touched it. I'm very particular about my work. I'm too much of a perfectionist. So the fact that these went in exhibition made it very easy for me to put them on my website. All the other stuff is, you know, I don't know, just whatever, you know, if I get a portrait job, I just did one like 2 weeks ago. None of that's going to hit my site. I just know it. I'm not going to put it on there. I don't feel like it's something that I want to put on there. As an artist, you go through these stages and you either are into it or you're not. And for me to put something on my website, it's a big deal. So it doesn't get done usually.
So let me
That's a
ask you
good enough
something.
answer for you.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
I did commercial advertising in Manhattan. But the question that I have for you is, what's the difference between a headshot and portraiture?
I think a headshot is always a close-up portrait, but a portrait isn't always a headshot.
I mean, a headshot, you're selling the person.
And a portrait?
Well, if you want to get into it, for me, a headshot, if we go down to what I do on a daily basis, is a commercially viable product for their personal brand, which means there's eye contact with the camera. A portrait, for me, doesn't mean that it's not commercially viable, but it doesn't mean that it's from here up. Like for me, a headshot is from the chest up. Not even if it goes below the chest, it's not a headshot anymore. And it's also always a portrait, right? Because it is kind of a portrait. However, the depth of which the expression conveys to the camera is really dependent upon whether it's commercially viable or not. I think my headshots anyway, I like to show off the person and run the gamut of expression, and then they decide what they're going to use. For portraiture, it might be, I'm not trying to capture them in such a positive light. Maybe I'm trying to get an emotion out of them or something like that. Whereas in headshot photography, I'm always going for something that speaks to the onlooker about that human as having their personality shine through in a positive light. Generally, I mean, unless somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm an actor and I'm only playing the villain. I don't want any shots where I look like a nice human. I want to look like a complete jerk the entire time. Then fine. Hey, they're paying me. I'll do whatever. But for me, the human face is the most interesting thing on the planet to me. So I'm working with each person to figure out how I can mold their face into what I want out of it as an artist. And
Yeah, well, maybe we should show some of the headshots then. So I don't know if Michael's familiar.
Only you
with
wanted
your
to
work.
stick with the portraits. All right.
Oh, we can move all around.
I
here.
haven't changed that part of the site in 10 years either. And I shoot headshots almost every day. So, but I'll show them. I'll show what's on the site anyway. My new work hasn't gone on the site because
it's funny because I used to have a friend years and years ago.
You had a friend?
Yeah, once.
Okay.
Exaggerating.
Who did headshots, but he only needed 2 pictures of the person to do the headshot. One like this and one like this.
And then they went in the post office.
They put numbers under the guy's face.
it's amazing. So basically, here's a corporate portfolio. I mean, this is the stuff that gets me my work, and I shoot and I put people in here, and I look at these, and these are all pretty old. I don't have anything that's recent, and I'm not saying that this is a wonderful thing. However, I am big into multiple sources of income, and I have a totem pole on what I work on, and this is lower on the totem pole because it's just working. So I have he's the CEO of GoDaddy. I think he just left. He's an actor. He was the CEO of Waterford Wedgwood. I don't know if he's still there. And then I have actors. These are actors. So I was big into shooting actors, and I'm big into expression, and I love my work. So I don't feel the need to change a heck of a ton of it. And I think it's really good, and it shows the range. Now, is it the new stuff? No. Could I show the new stuff? Probably. Like I took this, this is the cover of my book, which I have right here. It's called The Headshot. I did it with Scott Kelby, and he had me do it. And I love doing it. It allowed me to call myself an, okay. So this shot is like maybe a year old, maybe. Yeah, it's a little over a year old. It's probably the newest one on the site because I loved it and I loved her and I put her up there. Like I rarely am changing much stuff, but that's because I love my work and I don't feel like anybody would age it unless I was on a Zoom saying what year I took it. But yeah, this is the stuff, and these are the women. So I have, you know, and this is my specialty. This is what I'm most known for. You might know her from The Big Bang Theory. This is what I'm really, you know, and
So
I love my work. So,
yes, so over in the chat, John Wallace is asking, when you're doing portraits, how do you connect to the person quickly in a short amount of time?
that's a fantastic question. So I used to, I'll give you a long and short or whatever answer I can give. So what I used to do is I had a routine that I would go into with everybody that worked, that I would get expressions out of them. And it's all through coaching. So there's the number one way to get your subject, I believe, to connect with you in the camera is to be, to own your turf. Basically, somebody comes in my studio, they're in my hands. And once I start to direct them towards what I want, I found that the more confident you are with your camera, the more people are apt to listen to you and to give you what you want. But you have to do it in a very, it has to be catered to each individual. So dependent on different personalities. So you just can't do it in a linear fashion. It just doesn't work that way. And that's the way I used to do it. But as I became a better director, I understood, oh, wait, if I talk to this person this way, this is how I'm going to get one thing. This is how I'm going to get another. But the more confident you are, what I found is that confidence drizzles off on your subject. All of a sudden they become more confident because of the way you're directing them. And also, if you're really good at what you do and you've nailed down, I'm very consistent. Like I like guys like this. Like I like them like this, you know, I like women like that. That's what they get. So it's very consistent in terms of what I'm doing. And that is the reason for my ability to focus 100% on the human. I think a lot of photographers are technical, but they don't work on the human side of things. So they're worried about their lighting because they're switching their lighting all the time. And then they don't even get to the human in front of their camera. And for me, I don't pay any attention to my lighting or my gear or anything or my settings because everything's been done a gazillion times before. I don't have time to pay attention to that stuff. I don't want to pay attention to that stuff. I put 100% of my attention on the human being. And I call myself a physiognomist. So what I do, and I think a lot of photographers miss this, physiognomy is basically the study of the human face and how what the expressions are conveying to the onlooker. So I'm looking at that when I'm looking through my viewfinder. And if I don't like what I see, then I'm not sending a message from my brain down into my neck, down my arm, all the way out my forearm, into my hand, into my index finger, so that the index finger is the distance between it and the floor is decreased so that it presses my shutter button. I just don't press it. I don't press it. And I wait until I get an expression that I like, and then I hit the shutter. And I think a lot of photographers are willy-nilly on that because they don't know what to do, and they don't know how to get their subject to change for them in the way that they want. I happen to study the human face and all the expressions that it can make, and then look at an individual and cater my sessions towards the expressions that I see out of them way before they get in front of the camera. I'm studying their face. So, and the number one thing that I've learned in the 20 years I've been shooting, 20 plus years now, I guess, is that the brain will try to tell you what your face looks like, but it doesn't know. So I modeled for 8 years. You put me in front of a camera. I know my face. I kind of know it. I don't know what it looks like, but I know the angles that work, and I know how to semi-convey. So if a photographer gets in front of me, I had it happen. I've modeled since 2003, basically, when I quit to do photography full time. I think I got one job for Chase between now and then. And I got asked to do a I got asked to do an editorial for a magazine about a month ago. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. This is great. I'd love to do it. And they had all these clothes for me. They came to my studio. They brought in a photographer I didn't know. And I coach photographers on rapport with their subjects. And that's my thing. I coach the Headshot Crew. The Headshot Crew is my site. If anybody wants to get into headshot photography, go to Headshot Crew, sign up for it. You'll get a week's worth of emails and videos for me to try it. And if you like it at the end of the week, you could stick with me. But I, basically coach expression training there. I mean, I coach everything because you can't get to the expression if you don't get to the technical. So this photographer came in I never met before. And he had contacted me before. I said, do you need lights? What are you using? He goes, I don't know. What do you got? I said, I got everything. What do you need? He said, we'll figure it out that day. I was like, all right, this guy seems cool. I guess he knows what he's doing. I'll just help him. I was like, I'm the model. I want the shots to look good. I'm going to help this guy. And he comes in and he's not sure what he wants. He's like, do you have like an Octabank or something? I said, I got a brown color para. Why don't we put that up? I put that up. I got him going with that. And he's like, all right, do you have something I could use for Phil? I was like, yeah, let's do a softbox or a beauty dish or something. We did a softbox on another strobe. And I was like, he's like, that's fine. That's all I need. And then he started shooting me and he didn't say a word to me, not one word. And I was just like in awe. I was like in shock. And I was like, wait a minute, and normally whenever I coach photographers and I have them photograph me because I want to see how good they are at direction. And I coach them up through that. Normally I like rake them over the coals if they're not giving me anything. This guy didn't give me a thing. And I was like, but this is my day and I can model and I know my face. So I could do it all for him. I'm not going to lose this day I haven't modeled since 2003. It's 2021. I was like, I'm doing it. So I had a blast. We did a bunch of Instagram stories and a bunch of stuff for it. And I had an awesome time. I think it's on my highlights in my Instagram stories. If you guys want, my Instagram's Peter_Hurley. If you all go there and follow me, it'd be helpful because I'm trying to get over 100,000 followers and it's really hard. I've been at 99 point something for like a month. It's like crazy. Anyway, I had to do everything for that photographer. Now we got great stuff, but I sometimes whenever I modeled, if the photographer, when I wasn't a good model, before I knew what I was doing, some models just don't know what they're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but if I was with a good photographer, I always conveyed some, I always got good stuff. I always felt comfortable. Whenever I was with a photographer that didn't coach me, I was like a fish out of water. The pictures were horrible. I didn't look good at all. I wasn't going to let that happen this time. So basically, you guys, everybody, if you've decided to be a portrait photographer and put a human in front of your lens, there has to be a transfer of energy between you and that person in order to get something special in front of the camera, into the camera. And that's what my thing is about. I want that individualized energy of that person that's directed my way because of how I've directed them, or that we've created an atmosphere where we're doing it in tandem together and it's teamwork and we're actually riffing off each other and getting interesting stuff. I just think when a human being's in front of your camera, playing with expression is key because from my work since I started, I consider the direction of your subject and the expression of your subject the final ingredient in portraiture or headshots or anything when you're shooting a person in a scenario where it's a setup. Like anybody coming in my studio, it's set up. Like I have to create an atmosphere. If I go out on the street and I'm shooting documentary style or photojournalism or something and stuff's happening in front of me, that's different. I'm not saying a thing. I'm just shooting, right? I'm capturing expression. I'm trying to capture moments. I'm not even talking. I'm documenting. In a studio scenario, when that person sits down in front of my camera, if I don't say anything, I consider it creating a flatmosphere. So I'm not creating an atmosphere. I'm flattening everything out. So And normally photographers that are overly technical, this is why you have to be, as an artist, you have to be right and left brain. And a lot of photographers are so left brain that they want to measure the distance from the lights and what their aperture is and shutter speed and ISO and how much light output that is and how sharp the image looks. And all that stuff to me is crap. I don't care about any of it. I care about the interaction between me and the human, and hope that in the end, obviously I'm very technical because my work looks the way that it works. It's got to look good. But that's secondary to the emotion and the expression and the draw of the image once people see it. I think the draw of the image once people see it is really based on that, that vibe that you get from the subject or just the look that you've created. That's why I like the portraiture to be busy and the headshots in the in-studio stuff to be super clean.
Yeah, you talked about owning your space, and there's a great Irving Penn story about Marlena Dietrich coming in and immediately telling him where to put the lights, how to compose the photo. And Penn's response to her is, in this experience, you be Dietrich, I'll be Penn, and I'll take the photos. And that's the way it went.
I love that. I love that. I have people do that to me. Like and they didn't get the memo that I'm really good at what I did. I had a mother-daughter combo come in that I had to photograph, and the daughter was like 15. No, she was, I don't know, 17 or something. And she starts bossing me around. Like the 17-year-old, I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Oh my gosh. It was like, it was horrible.
So Melissa was
if
asking,
they're hiring me for me, they got to know it. You got to put your foot down at that point. And I'm glad that Penn did that. That's a great story.
How many images do you take in any given session?
I don't know, 1,000. I don't know. I mean, I take a lot. But the other thing is that I had a woman come in with a guy in a portrait session a couple months ago, and I was like, you're trying to paint my canvas. You know, I put it that way. I was like, I'm the artist. I'm painting here. Like, if you want to paint the canvas, here's the camera. Go ahead. Like, I can't work that way. And I always say it's my day too. Like, I don't care how much they're paying me. I kick people out. If they don't listen to me and I mean, I hate doing it because my rates are so good, and I don't want to like give them they pay a deposit. And I've been to the point where I've been like, this isn't working. You're not listening to me. I'm not enjoying myself. Go find another photographer. And I'm like, I'm going to give your deposit back and you can go. And that used to happen like once every 6 months. I don't think when I got to that point in the session, I don't think anybody ever left, but I had to be willing to say it so that they gave me my power back, because I'd be like, look, this is the way I feel. Like, I just had to get tough on people because I'm not at the stage in my career where I need to put up with the bullshit.
Michael has something to add to that.
How long are your sessions, and approximately how much are we talking about per session?
My portrait sessions are 3 hours of shooting. So that means if a woman's in makeup for an hour and a half, it's about 4.5 hours, minimum 5 hours. And the headshot sessions can range anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours, something like that. It just depends. Actors will shoot all day long. They will shoot every outfit that they brought. They'll shoot all day. They'll shoot till they're blue in the face, till you're blue in the face. Corporate people, CEOs and stuff, they're like, I got to go. We got it. That looks great. Okay, I'm out of here. So it just depends. So the way I do my pricing is very simple. So if they're in studio, it's $3,000 for a portrait session just for the sitting fee. And then it's $1,500 for a headshot session. And then if I walk out my door, it's $1,000 extra to go anywhere.
Do you supply the hair and makeup?
No, it's $400 for a headshot session and $600 for a portrait session.
No,
and they don't.
Saying, but so you don't supply any hair and makeup for your $6,000 fee?
No. They have to pay for it if they want it. And I highly recommend. I hate shooting without it. And I don't supply them with a photograph for the $3,000 fee either. They have to pay for those extra, and they buy each one, and they're $200 each. And that includes retouching. So I would say most people buy 10 images from my sessions. I just had one that bought 10, like Friday I had a shoot It was a headshot session. So it was the 1,500. It was a returning client. So I give them a discount, but it was, yeah, it was $2,000 for the images because they bought 10, and then 1,500 for the sitting fee. And they paid the makeup artist the 400. I don't know if they tipped him or not. I didn't get that, but that's basically the gist of it.
Okay, so Jim Miller was asking in the chat, he'd like to know more about face physiology and evoking expressions. He said as a kid, he worked in a photo lab for an incredible photographer that shot sheet film portraits with about 8 total per individual, and each was unique and portrayed the person well.
Okay, so face physiology and evoking expression. So if you look at the human face, you're dealing with the things that move. Basically, if everybody thinks about their face right now, I doubt that you controlled your expression at all today. Between now, the time that you woke up in the morning till now, you haven't thought about your expression. So we're on autopilot and our subconscious handles it. The only time you ever think about it is if you're in front of the mirror and actively looking at yourself and engaging yourself, or if you're in front of a camera. When you're in front of a camera, you're blind. You can't, your brain's trying to tell you what your face looks like, but it doesn't know. In front of a mirror, you can adjust yourself. The things that you're going to adjust are very simple. This isn't easy, but it's very simple. There's only 3 things on your face that move that create different expressions or change the expression on your face. So it's mouth, eyes, and eyebrows. That's it. The mouth has the most muscles going into it. I think I don't remember the exact number, but I forget because I used to know. But that's going to change the look of your expression the most. The eyes only open and close. And if you Google me or Google the word squint, you'll see confidence comes from the eyes, and so does fear. So when people get, it's actually uncertainty. So when humans get uncertain, our eyes widen. And it happens with everybody. You'll notice it whenever it's also, I work with 2 polygraph examiners. One that's in Homeland Security now, one that was in the Secret Service. And we are working on another project together. And it's really interesting to see what they know about I had them come into my studio and they said, we go through rigorous training for this. They did the CIA stuff and all. Anyway, all that stuff that I'm not allowed to classified information. But basically, what I got out of it was I didn't know them from anywhere, and they were like, "You're doing naturally what we're trained to do," and I don't understand how that happened. And it was because I shot so many faces so close to me that you have to read them. You just have to. Like my whole life is about interactions with humans and how to engage somebody and then figure out what it is that they're doing or they're trying to convey through their facial expression. So it's when I'm not even holding the camera. But my purpose in life is, and if you guys watch my TEDx talk, my purpose in life is to really, I would love to figure out a way, and I'm working on this, and I'm spreading my message through the Headshot crew. Is my big thing is when somebody gets in front of my camera, I want them to walk out with a skip in their step. I want them to feel better about their appearance than they did before, and that's really what it's about. Because we are saddled with we didn't pick our parents and we look like this. So you have to run the entire time on this planet. You're running around in this body of yours that you were given. And some people like theirs and some people don't. So I think the human face is the most interesting thing to look at on the planet. I think we all have beauty. So everybody that comes in here is beautiful to me. I just have to figure out how to pull their beauty out. And when I do that and I see them light up because I did that, or teach them something about their face that they didn't know before, it's amazingly powerful. And that's what my TEDx talk was about. And I get emotional about it, but I was like, you know what? If I have to figure out, Jay Shetty said the other day, he said, find something that you're passionate about and develop it the best you can. I was passionate about photographing people. And he said, it will develop into your purpose. And I was like, this is what happened. So I shot all these faces and I was like, I had to figure out a purpose. I was burnt out and I wasn't paying attention to my humans way back when this recession and it got a little funky. And I was like, I need to figure out what my purpose is. So Now, everybody I get in front of my camera, it's about that. It's like, how can I make them feel better about themselves? How can I figure out the angle of their face, the expressions that they can make, what they can convey to other people when they're not in front of the camera, what they can convey to cameras when I'm not there. And then I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I developed this coaching platform called the Headshot Crew. How am I going to spread my message globally? Because I can only have so many people in my presence. Now I have 18,000 photographers running around the world with my teachings that are doing it for me. So we created an army of photographers that are doing the same thing. And that I'm really proud of. And,
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to this because I always hated the gap between my teeth till you did my photo and changed my whole attitude about it.
I love it. Is that I always tell people with the
Yeah.
diastemis, I'm like, you gotta don't fill that in. And everybody for years, like you were worried about, like, I think it's cool. And then it became hot. So all the models started to keep the diastemis, and it was just like, that's the space between the teeth. That's what it's called. So having knowledge on this stuff, like if I, and calling it out, like I had a guy who was doing a corporate job and I was shooting for this company, and I was shooting all the executives, and I got through. It was really cool. It was a cool location. They were doing a meeting, and it was on this floor of this building that they were building. So I had this empty, this like open space that was not even built out yet in this building to work in for a day. And then this one of the guys on the executive team had a lazy eye, and it shot way off to one side. And I've contended with that plenty. So I get him in front of the camera, and I said, hey, first thing I said, have you gotten any pictures of yourself where you got the eye aligned? And it was like the first thing I said to him almost. And he looked at me, he goes, not really, no. And I said, well, have you taken a picture? He goes, yeah. Have you been with photographers? He goes, yeah. Did anybody ever mention it? He goes, no, nobody ever mentioned it. I said, well, let's work on it. He goes, you don't know how good that makes me feel. So I got him, and I got the shots, and I got him, and I taught him what to do with his eye. And the CEO of the company said, I've never seen a picture as good as that as him. And he was genuinely impressed that I brought it up. I call these things perceived flaws. I mean, that's obviously something that is extreme, but I bring them up to all my subjects because I know the answer. Like I don't bring up things that I don't have the answer for. But I do bring up things that I know that I can work on, because I consider myself as much a personal brand manager as anything else. So if I'm going to take a picture that's going to represent their personal brand, I want it to be their best. And I want to draw attention away from things that people that might bug them. And I want to draw attention to their best traits. And that's what I do on an individual basis. So I used to do, back to the comfort level of people, I used to do consultations with people. I would bring them in, I'd offer it, and I'd be like, I want to do a consultation. I want to sit down with them. They're going to get to know me. They're going to know where they're going. They're going to be more comfortable when they come in. Let's do these consultations. And I realized it was a crutch for me. I was like, I was doing that because I wasn't a good enough director. I was like, you could direct any human and you can have them in the palm of your hand in 2 seconds if you have a skill set like that. So I was like, I don't have that skill set at this point in my career, but I want to develop it. So I told my assistant, no more consultations, because I would use it as a sales thing too. Like I thought if I did the consultation, they would book it. It would be before the booking. And I said, first of all, I'm too busy to do consultations now. I was like, I don't have time. Second of all, I don't want to know anything about the person before they walk in the door, because I want to challenge myself to figure them out in however much time I have between them walking in the door and them being in front of my camera. And sometimes that's 1 minute, and sometimes it's a half hour, and sometimes if they're in makeup, it's an hour and a half. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I decided to be a photographer and an artist, and I want to challenge myself because I enjoy the challenge. I train for the Olympics, and I don't play around. I just like it. I like being challenged. So now I don't do anything. Now on occasion, that's not great, because occasionally I would like to get prepped on the human on occasion, because for instance, I had a new assistant come in. This was a while ago, but I had Brittany still with. She's my assistant now. She's the best. I hope she never goes anywhere. But anyway, she came in, she was kind of new. And what we would do is we would get a booking, and I want to find out what the person's needs are and what they already have out there on the web, especially if they're, have some significance. Like they could be a celebrity, they could be a big wig in business, they could be like, what is it that they need? Do I need to know what they have and what actually I'm going to try and replace on the web for them? So we will Google people and then look at their images. There's a couple things that I do when I look at them. One, I look for quality of the photography that they've had, and two, I look for angles of their face, and three, I look for expression. And she neglected to do this, and we were in an Uber on the way to this shoot, and I was like, where are we going today? And she's like, we're going to a bank. I was like, okay, we're going to the bank. We're shooting somebody who works at the bank. I was like, do you have the person's name? Like, we're going to this bank. Could you please like find out who I'm shooting at how do we get the job? She goes, I don't know. I was like, all right. She's like, let me Google the person. So she Googles the guy, and turns out that it's his bank. He owns the bank. He created the bank. He is the bank. He's a billionaire who owns the bank that I'm shooting. And I was like, don't you think I should know that going into this, that I should know that we're shooting a, first of all, billionaire, and that the dude owns the bank. So we get there, and he's got an office just for shooting. And his assistant who booked a job and who's talking to my assistant is like, look, you're going to be, and she was really stern and rude, but she's like, you're going to be in this office, and this is his shooting office. He has the same exact office upstairs, but it's messy. You're not allowed in there. So you're going to be setting up down here, and he's going to come in and you're going to shoot him. And I was like, okay. So I was like, that's crazy. He's got his own office that looks exactly the same. It's like a duplicate office. So they gave me some prep of what I had to do and stuff. And anyway, long story short, it went really well, but I did not know anything going in. I didn't know enough going in. So now if I get something like that, I will do a little bit of research just to find out and stuff on occasion, and to just be more aware of what I'm going for. Most of it's just to see what they have, because I want to know what I'm going to smoke in the first shot I take of the person. It's really what most of it is.
So do you have any new Hurleyisms in the last year or so?
I have new Hurleyisms like every day. I make up stuff so what I found is that humans respond in terms of, there's a basic gist of what I have to do to get somebody to react to me. So there's things that I need. Like what I do is I work from the ground up. So I place because I'm working with light, right? So I place their feet where I think is going to be the right spot for their face, when their face gets to where it needs to be. And then I move the body, then I move the shoulders, then I move the head and neck. And once I get to there, then I work on the expression, but I don't work on the expression until I'm composed. So I have these little things that I want subconsciously driven reactions. So I found that humans like to be right more than they're concerned about themselves in front of a camera. The concern for a camera is huge, but being right is bigger. So I come up with these dumb things that I say to get them to behave the way that I want them to throw them off their game, so they stop thinking about their face. And it just works. It just was something that it really works. So I'll say something like, I'll put them in their position, and I'm composed, I'm ready to shoot. And I'll say, okay, now slightly turn your hips towards the Canadian border. And I see that look on their face, like, okay, where am I? Where is the Canadian border? It doesn't matter where they turn. I don't care. What I want them to do for that split second, they can't think about the camera. So if they're not thinking about the camera, I can get them being real. So it's essentially that you as humans, we can do slight multitasking, but you really can't focus your attention on one thing if you're thinking about something else. So essentially and the trick that I found, everybody right now, just try this. I'll just control your thoughts for a split second. None of you are allowed to think about a pink elephant. So the pink elephant flashed we think in pictures. So I just put a pink elephant in your brain for a nanosecond. during that nanosecond, you couldn't think about your mouth or your eyes or your face or the fact that you're in front of a camera. That's the premise behind it. How it works is a confluence of things that I do that I'm trying to confuse the human on. And I found that confusion works really well to create the relaxation so that I can get whatever I want out of the people. And I work very well with humor and laughter, because if somebody's laughing, generally it's very hard to stay tense if you're laughing. Not to mention that when you laugh, so I get my best serious shots after blown out laughter and having fun on set, because when you laugh, your muscles in your face contract. So when the smile comes in at the end of whatever you're laughing about, the mouth and everything is the most relaxed that it could possibly be. And that's when I get my serious shots. So it's a contraction and then the relaxation of that I shoot through. So it's a process in that way. And I'm constantly, if you notice, I talk a lot, so I don't shut up. And that's kind of my shtick. Now, that being said, everybody listening to me that I coach is normally like, oh my gosh, I can pick up bits and pieces of what Peter coaches, but I can't do that. Like, I do some weird stuff and stuff that I love doing. Like I do, I just mess with people. Like I just start talking and then I just start, I've been loud and busy and whatever like this the whole shoot. And then I just start shooting. I go, okay, bring your nose. So, okay, that's good. Really nice. Just do this. And then just try this and then turn and then and they're just like looking at me like, they're trying to listen, and I'm just getting my voice until they just like, you're just a jerk. They just start cracking up. And then I just, so I do stuff like that to throw them off, but also create the rapport. Now, you also can't do that with everybody. Like some people just will be like, this guy, I'm paying this guy for this. I don't do it with those people. I just know. So my work became people skills more than anything else. It's one of the hardest things to teach, but it's the thing that makes my days so wonderful, because every day is an experiment. It's really cool.
How do you work through delivering your photographs to your clients? Do you
very weak
select yourself and then put them in a gallery for them to review?
And so I do a consultation with them at the end of the session, basically to sell the images, whatever images they're going to buy. So like on Friday, this woman bought 10 images. Then they go off to my retoucher. My retoucher retouches them. And then my retoucher and I either Zoom or we do it in person. And we look through I approve the retouching and everything. And then it goes off to the client.
So for the selection, you actually sit there with the person.
I'm doing it I never used to do that. But then Tony Tafe, this guy in my group who I coached, started a headshot business after taking my workshop. And he hadn't made a dime with headshots. He was a photojournalist. And he was also trained by he was selling Bentleys. He's from the UK and he was selling Bentleys, and Audi owns Bentley, and they sent him to Germany to get some sales training. So he had all this training, and then he's like, well, if I could do it with cars, why can't I do it with headshots? So he developed a system for selling that we called it the Tnt Method. We did a tutorial on it, which we sell on my site. And he said to me, he's like, you have to change the way that you shoot. And I was like, I don't want to do consultation. I don't want to sell images at the end of the shoot. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, I had a slow month, 1 month, and he kept twisting my arm. He's like, look, if we're going to do a tutorial on this, you have to do it. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to sell it. Like, people won't listen to you if you don't know how it actually works. I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I switched everything over for a month. And I never looked back. I made more money and was able to change the dynamic of my shoots because of that. And now we laugh about it. I probably left over $1 million on the table over the course of my career easily, because I hadn't had that system in place prior to 2019.
Cool. Well, we're at the top of the hour here. I don't know if anyone has other questions they want to bring up. Yeah, Michael.
I have 3 questions. Let me ask the questions first and then answer them.
Perfect.
Okay. So where is your studio? How long did you work for Bruce? And how's business been since COVID hit?
Awesome. All right. My studio's in Chelsea. It's on 26th Street between 6th and 7th. I've been here since 2008. My landlord is a photographer and sailor, which is crazy. And I saw it as a sign in 2008 that I had to be here. So I signed really long leases, and now I'm stuck with it. And it cost me $8,500 a month. And which is
Where in Chelsea are you?
26 between 6 and 7.
Well, a number.
134 West 26th Street.
I was at 119. Okay.
There you go. And that being said, it's been very difficult to get people in the studio with COVID, obviously. So fortunately, I have a good rapport with my landlord, and he gave me a break for a while. But now it's been back up to full price, and things are coming back. So I'm doing a little bit better with it, but it's been you know, it hasn't been easy. I mean, it's been the slowest year. Luckily, I have multiple sources of income, and that's why I don't really have to photograph. But I love it, and it is my thing, and all my teaching is based off of being a working photographer. So, but I was able to increase my income dramatically from adding all the elements that I've added. I sell my lighting kit through Westcott, and it's the Peter Hurley Flex kit. If you go to FJ Westcott, you'll see the Cine kits that I designed. I have all these products, and then I have all these teaching products, and I'm a Canon Explorer Light, and they used to send me around teaching all over the place, and then that's not happening anymore. And then I did workshops live.
Wait, go back. Wait. Go back.
Explorer of Light.
You're an Explorer of Light?
Yes.
Peter's, Michael, go ahead, tell him.
I'm called Captain Explorer.
No way. Cool.
Way. I invented that program.
You did? No way. That's awesome.
And
I got invited. I had no clue. You what?
Well, neither did they. I managed that program for 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
So when did you become an Explorer of Light?
2015.
I'm old, so my brain is very slow. But I forget the guy who took my place.
Was it Steve? In Glema? Wasn't that the guy running it? He was
Stephen Glema, right?
Yeah, and he was gone by the time I came in. So
and who ran it after? Oh, wait a minute, Peter T. Barcuna? No, not Peter T. Who ran it after Steve?
Well, Mike Larson brought me in.
Mike Larson. Okay.
And that was because I met him through Scott Kelby. So it was I was just very fortunate. But
Kelby's not. Kelby was only there for a short time, wasn't he?
No, he was just doing something with them. He does a lot of stuff with Canon, but he wasn't. I don't think he ever became an explorer.
No, he wasn't. But he was doing a lot of stuff for a couple of other companies, also a couple of other camera companies.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, your other question, Michael, was Bruce. How long did you work with Bruce?
I was modeling for Bruce in 1995, and then I started a modeling career after that, and then I did.
You were modeling for Bruce.
I never worked for Bruce.
Okay. I thought you were an assistant or.
No. He just told me to pick up a camera. I was a model. I had done a bunch of modeling jobs with him.
Okay.
Just because he's was amazing. We were good friends, and then we did Abercrombie & Fitch together, Polo, and I did Italian Vogue with him.
But the stuff that you do for Canon, there's a niche category called headshots.
Yeah, I'm like the headshot guy. Yeah. I mean, I'm also a ridiculously dynamic speaker, if you didn't realize it in this conversation. So they throw me on stage and people enjoy it.
Wait a minute. Hold on for a second.
And very modest, obviously.
You're a what? A dynamic speaker.
Yes.
Okay.
Peter likes being on stage.
I love it. Yeah.
Speaking
I
of being
love
on
it.
stage,
It's part
let
of
me
the
share
challenge.
something
I
here.
love it. I love being on stage.
Ryan,
It's
did you have
been
something?
upsetting not to be on stage and running around. Well, you know what makes it easy is that they got great products. So it makes it very, like, I love my Canon gear. So it makes it very easy to talk about. And I love my relationship with them. So it means a lot to me. So the fact that they put me on stages is just awesome. So I feel very fortunate.
And you also like the gelt.
Nuller
You know what gelt is?
Yeah, Nuller thought he was a dynamic speaker, so he's all
Yeah.
upset now.
I was just dynamic.
Here, let me share some photos of Peter on stage.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
We talked about the hair in the old
That
pictures.
was a moment.
That's when he was getting it cut.
Here, hang on.
There it is, coming off. Oh my gosh, look, it's short there. Oh, now it's going lower. Look at that. There's a look. I like that look. That was a day. That was an awesome day.
Does everybody recognize who's cutting his hair?
No, who?
Sue Bryce.
Another Explorer of Light.
Who? What's her
Sue
name?
Bryce. You don't know, Michael, you're old.
Michael, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
she's an excellent portrait photographer, and she's also an excellent teacher.
No,
Yes, that was at WPPI a few years ago.
I only knew stuff like people like Bordnick and Sheila Metzner, Joyce Tennyson, you know, Sarah Moon, Robert Farber,
Yep.
Jack Rosnicki.
Speaking of Jack, he's going to be my guest here on Thursday to talk about
He was in
copyright.
here.
and how to
Is he still
register.
here? Where is he? Jack's a good buddy of mine. Where is
Jack he's listening from his car and he had a bad connection, so he had to drop out, but he'll be on Thursday as my guest.
he? All right.
So Peter, let me ask this. Where do you see, not the teaching or anything else, but where do you see yourself with photography going forward? Are there new things you want to accomplish?
I don't know. I'm trying to, I guess I mean, I just think as a portrait photographer, I'm always going to enjoy what I do. I just love what I do. But I just feel like the pond is not that big in what I'm trying to do. So I'm developing, like I said before, I'm working with those Secret Service agents on a program that we've been developing and doing speaking on and stuff like that. So I think I'm going other directions. I want to be able to communicate to all humans about what we convey to other humans and that kind of thing. So I think it's a little bit beyond the scope of the photography, although the camera's giving me everything and it's also the tool that I use. So I think I'll always incorporate photography into everything I do, but I don't see, I'm not, like, for obvious reasons, like, and Michael called me out on it, like I haven't touched my site in 10 years. Like it's just people walk in my door, you know, to get their pictures taken, and it works that way. It is important to me to be continued photographing, but I don't know. I don't know what I don't have any goals right now towards growing the photography end of my business the way that I do the speaking end and the things that I do to get myself out there.
Well,
Does you-
agree with you. I kind of have always done the same thing. I love photography. I love doing it, but I've, to a large extent, always viewed it as the tool to take me into things and places that I would have gotten into otherwise.
That's exactly it. That's huge. So I'm a big NFL fan. Like I've been a Giants fan since I was born, basically. My dad had season tickets from when I was 6. And I always liked the NFL, and I never thought I'd ever, you know, I picked up a camera. I never thought I'd get to shoot it. And now I'm shooting the NFL games, not because I'm a sports photographer, but because I'm a headshot photographer who coached one of the wives of one of the coaches. And then that led to me getting in with the team, and then the team liked my work. So now I can shoot any game that I want. Like next year, they want me on the field for whatever game I want. And I was like, that was just because of being a Canon Explorer Light. I was able to call them and say, hey, I need some big lenses. Give me some big lenses. And then they put me on the field, and then they were like, this guy's actually good. And now I love it. It just opened doors that would have never, and that is such a challenging thing. So any of you that are sports shooters, I look up to you, like I'm learning that too. And I kept getting better. I sucked at first. I still kind of suck, but I got some good shots and I was like, I don't know what to do with them. I don't get paid for them. I just do it for fun and using it for my social media following. I'm an influencer too. So I'm using the influencer stuff to try and build the influencer stuff and using it for that. So I'm not sure which direction that's all going, but
So
Yeah, but
all
Peter,
the stuff
you
you
look
do
at
for the
sports.
NFL, you don't get paid for any of the stuff you're doing, shooting for the Giants at all? No
no, I
stock,
don't.
no anything?
Nothing. No. And I don't shoot for the Giants. I shoot for the Washington football team now. I was shooting. I mean, I go whenever the Giants have a game against them, I go, but I don't have a connection at the Giants. My connection, I coached the wife of the defensive coordinator of the Washington football team.
So Steve,
But-
you had a question?
Yeah, Peter, you find yourself approaching shooting these games completely different than a sports photographer would.
Yeah, I get out of their way. They're running by me, and I'm like, okay, you guys get to shop for the newspaper tomorrow. I'm like, this is awesome, and I like watching it. You know, the funnest. I think one of the coolest things, although it was hard with a mask on, not that only a couple people came up to me, was being on the side of the field and having the photographers look at me and be like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I don't know, I'm just having fun." It's so cool.
Hey, Peter, this is Tony Lovejoy. I
Hi,
know
Tony.
you're on Clubhouse and you just spoke about the importance of being an influencer. What do you think about Clubhouse? How are you using it? And what do you think about a lot of the young photographers that are on there versus the age that you are and the experience that you have in the direction of photography as it stands today? That's a really packed question, I know.
It's so funny. I'm getting texts that there's a Clubhouse room going up in my club that they want me on. And I was like, I'm on a Zoom. I can't go in there right now, but I was on there earlier. So for those of you that don't know, Clubhouse is a new social media platform where it's like being on a huge conference call where you can you have people on stage, but you're just listening to this talk. I think that the greatest thing about it is that somebody who's just starting out can speak to somebody like me or other influencers that are on it, and everybody's very open with their time, and I don't think anybody holds anything back. Like, I'll answer anything on there. I don't care. But it's relatively new, and they're starting out. You know, people follow other people, and I've been fortunate enough to get in there a little bit early, and now have a pretty substantial following on it already. And I'm just enjoying it. I feel like it's almost like you're in the dark room. Well, you know, the old days when I would go to a community dark room and like show my pictures to people and get feedback and be like, hey, how do I get this? How do I dodge this properly so that it does this or whatever? And you've got that kind of community going on in there. And it's really kind of cool and powerful. I'm enjoying it. It is kind of getting on my nerves that it's like, I found myself going home after shooting all day and going in, and where I'd normally turn the TV on, I'm like, I'm not turning the TV on. I'm turning on Clubhouse and listening and seeing what's going on in there, which was kind of nice for a while.
It's a bit addictive at times. John, you're on it now.
Occasionally, yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time. It's just, I don't know if it's being on the West Coast. It seems to happen at dinner time. I get all these invitations when I want to have some time with the family. So it's been tough to really try it out.
Well,
The
people are
Android
going
users
20.
feel so left out.
Well, that's your problem. You go get yourself an iPhone.
We'll send you an invite.
Hey, Peter, are
do
you,
you find,
Hang on,
Who-
Tony, finish your question, then we'll go to Michael.
Peter, do you find that it's having an impact on your business or growing the headshot group that you have?
It did help the headshot crew. We just launched this this free component. We used to have a trial in the headshot crew, but you had to put a credit card down to enter the trial period. And we got rid of that in conjunction with Clubhouse coming on. And now it's anybody can go to headshotcrew.com and sign up, and you get the trial for free. And you're with me I do a week's long of emails and videos. And it's just gone crazy because of Clubhouse, people can actually ask questions and get answers and stuff like that. So in the last couple of months on Clubhouse, it's really helped me grow my coaching platform, which has been interesting.
Cool.
Thank
So
you.
Michael,
Do you do any of your own printing?
I guess if I turn the camera around, I got a Pro 4000 right in front of me. And as you know, did you create the printer credit on for the Explorers of Light? Because I have so much paper and printers, and I got stuff galore that I don't print enough. So I have to print more, but I have invited everybody in the headshot crew to come to my studio in New York and print whatever they want, whenever they want, because Canon's been so generous with the printer credit that I get on an annual basis.
So you have a printer contract also?
Yeah.
I thought they ended that.
Nope.
You know Parish Kohanim?
No.
Oh,
70s photographer. Mike, you're old, Michael. You're like me. No one knows the people we know.
I have a question for you, all of you, about that. And this is, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but if you got a call from Peter or you got a call from Parish, and and both these photographers wanted to photograph you, where would you go?
Hands down, I'd go to Peter.
Yeah,
Same here.
well, okay.
I
You know,
only say
Do you know who
because Peter
Do you know who Parish Kohanim is?
I don't know who
but
Parish is.
Peter has a way of bringing out the person that I've never really seen anyone else do. There's
Oh,
a skill
thank you,
set. I mean,
Tony.
I do portraiture, but
How about Greg Gorman?
Yeah, much rather go
yeah,
to
I
me.
love
Come
Greg
on.
Gorman's work for sure.
I know Greg. I mean, I don't know him personally.
Yeah, I
but
mean, those are tough
I
questions,
can run
Michael.
with Greg.
Well,
Come
that's-
on, why would you do that?
I mean, because
Bruce
I'll tell
Weber, you
why,
go to
because
Bruce.
if you're talking about, well, you know, that's old school versus new school. I never saw anybody.
I
you
don't
know,
think
look at a
I'm new
photograph or a
school.
painting and say that was done by Grandma Moses. She's old school. What?
But I don't think it's
But I'm
about
not
being
new
old.
school.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
that's what she
about
was
being
saying.
old school or new school, Michael. I think that it's about
I feel like I'm
capturing
old.
the essence of a person,
gotta-
period. And
All right.
bringing a
You're
certain
making me
style.
feel good, Michael, that I'm new school. I'll take it.
Cool. Well, we've gone about 90 minutes here. I don't know, Peter, what your schedule is. If you need to,
I got to roll.
yeah.
But I appreciate you having me on, and if you guys continue the conversation without me, that's fine. But yeah, it's totally cool. I love talking about this stuff, and I think that I wrote on my I don't know where I wrote it. I wrote it on my social media. I said, I'm just a guy lucky enough to have picked up a camera. I feel really fortunate to have this career, and that I actually did that. So that's just the basis of it, and I'm still trying to learn. I always say I'm a student of the game. For all the people I've coached and all the people I teach, I'm like, if you're not playing this game, I mean, you're not with me. I'm learning on a continual basis. I learn as much from my students as they learn from me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Peter.
having me.
Good.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm going to
guys.
stop
Thanks,
the recordings, but we can hang on for a few minutes.
You guys can hang on. I got to go. But
Yeah.
bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Peter.
Guys. I enjoyed it. All right. See ya.
Take care, Peter.
Bye-bye.